What's up? And welcome into Under the Hood with Jonathan Hood. Thanks so much for downloading the podcast and checking this out on YouTube, youtube.com. Look for Under the Hood with Jonathan Hood there. Also on Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. Thank you very much for downloading the podcast as we're presented by Southwest Airlines. Yes, Southwest Airlines. You know, at Southwest, we give you the power to control your Rapid Rewards balance. And if your balance needs a little love, you can always buy Rapid Rewards points anytime. But it doesn't stop there. You can always gift or transfer your points to others or donate them to charity. Talk about making someone's day. Indeed, Southwest Airlines brings you Under the Hood with Jonathan Hood. One thing I want you to do, just one thing. If you're going to travel, if you're going to use Southwest Airlines, use my link. It's in the bio of this podcast. Just check it out. It's Rapid Rewards. Check it out. Make sure it's something that you can utilize or give to someone else. Southwest Airlines gives you the Rapid Rewards, so make sure that you check it out. It's our way of saying thanks for listening to Under the Hood with Jonathan Hood and checking it out on YouTube. This podcast that we have here today is about the National Basketball Association. If you are not an NBA fan, then this podcast is not for you. If your immediate reaction is NBA sucks, then this podcast is not for you. So you can go to somewhere else on Under the Hood with Jonathan Hood, because I think we could have an honest conversation about what's going on with Adam Silver's National Basketball Association. So before we go into it, the reason why that we're doing this is because right around the corner will be the NBA All-Star Weekend. And of course, now that football is done, Super Bowl is put to bed, now the focus will be on what's wrong with the NBA, because it's that time of year. We're in mid-February, and when football is done, then there's a focus on how to fix the NBA and what's wrong with All-Star Weekend for the NBA. I produced it. I've hosted it. I know what's coming. So I figured I'd get a jump on it before the All-Star Weekend happens. It's just what it is, right? So for those that don't know, I'm sure there's a lot of people that do not know that I've been working with NBA radio on SiriusXM satellite radio for almost a decade, here and there. I was on there a lot more often, I would say 5-6 years ago. I'm on there every now and then, but 5-6 years ago, I was doing a regular show with Chicago Bulls color analyst Stacey King. I know a lot of people don't know that, but we were doing middays doing NBA radio and talking about everything around the league. And I work with a lot of different people, Rick Mahorn, and a lot of coaches, a lot of ex-players around the NBA doing NBA radio on SiriusXM. It's a lot of fun. And I'm someone who really enjoys basketball, whether it's college or pro. Been around the NBA for a long time and made a lot of connections with the NBA. So it's nothing that I'm going to ever let go. When you have those connections, you really don't want to let those connections go, because you can always learn something. Same thing with college basketball, working with the UIC Flames for, next year will be 15 years doing play-by-play for the UIC Flames. Love being around basketball. So I have an affinity for it, obviously. But when it comes to the big league, when it comes to the NBA, there's some things that they really need to work on, and we need to talk about it. There's a number of things that I want to talk to you about, because I think my big question that I have for you is the NBA becoming a better product or better business? I think that's one of the questions that I would have for you. So when we take a look at the state of the NBA, we talk about the style of play. Let's start there with the style of play, because I think a lot of people have a problem with 45 three-point shots on the average by teams in the NBA. 45 three-point shots. That's a ton of threes. And what you want is to be able to have a style of play that's not just about three-point shots. There's a monotony with this offense and what we see with the NBA. The Golden State Warriors, the Celtics, and the Knicks are the top three teams in shooting the three in the NBA. Three is greater than two, yes. But my God, man, if you don't shoot it well, and there's a number of teams that don't shoot it well, do you have to continue to take those threes because of math? Or do you take it to the basket and get twos and maybe go to the foul line and get the old-fashioned three-point play? Or do you just work on your mid-game and just continue to hit jump shots? It's just something that it becomes mind-numbing after a while, especially the teams that can't hit those threes. I don't mind three-point shots, but if you don't shoot them for a high clip, it becomes monotonous watching it in the NBA and in college, by the way, if a team shoots it way too much. So that's one thing. Let's go to the next thing, and that is tanking. It has become commonplace in sports to be able to tank, especially in the NBA. Less than competitive players on the floor to get more ping pong balls at the draft lottery, it stinks. Think about if you're that fan, and it does come back to us, and we'll talk about this in a moment about what this does to affect us as fans. If you're the Pacers, you know that Halliburton's been out, so it's going to be a sunk season, a lost season. So the Pacers are not going to be playoff worthy like they have been in the past few years under Rick Carlisle. But if you're a Wizards fan, if you are a Nets fan, if you are a Utah Jazz fan, if you're the Mavs, if you're the Pelicans, if you're the Kings, you may like the NBA culture of going to games because that's the most popular thing in your city. And you might be a diehard, but it sucks that you go to the games knowing that you may not see the best of your team that you root for, that you pay tickets to see. The tanking thing is something that is not just an NBA thing. Tanking is in Major League Baseball. Tanking is in the National Football League. So it's not anything that's rare. We see it, but in the NBA, it has just become commonplace to say, now we're just not going to play players. There was something that egregious that happened with the Utah Jazz and the Washington Wizards not too long ago, where the Jazz just played their starters, and then in the second half, they just didn't. I think the Wizards might have done something similar. Like, so you're going to the game to see backups because you're trying to get to the ping pong balls, and you don't even know if you'll get the number one pick. That pisses me off, especially when you work hard for your money, and then you go to the arena, and it's like, why is Mac McClung playing? Why am I seeing backups, the 10th, 11th, and 12th guys on the bench when I paid good money to see whatever the best of the best is of the Utah Jazz or the Sacramento Kings or the Pels? That's just not right. So tanking is a problem in a lot of sports, but definitely in the NBA. Also, load management. So where is the regular season value when it comes to load management? Now, can I just tell you something? Load management is not just an NBA issue. Load management is a problem in the NBA, yes. But at the same time, you're looking for regular season value. You know something? Just between you and I think you already know this. If you think the NBA regular season does not matter, what do you think Major League Baseball and the National Hockey League seasons are? Does the NHL season really have value, the regular season? Does Major League Baseball's long regular season, does it really have value game after game after game? See, the difference is that with Major League Baseball, NHL, NBA, it's really about jockeying for position when you're talking about trying to get into the playoffs. But the bottom line is that in Major League Baseball and NHL, those players play, and the NBA players don't play enough. That's the difference. The regular seasons are, you can take them or you can leave them when it comes to Major League Baseball, NHL, and the NBA. What's the regular season value? See some games here or there. Those are long seasons. But the difference is that with Major League Baseball, more times than not, if your guy doesn't have a limb cut off, that guy's going to play. And the same thing with the National Hockey League. Tough players that find their way onto the ice. And then you don't find out until after the season, well, this guy was skating with one lung. This guy only had 4 toes. Whatever the hell, right? You find this out after the NHL season. Like, wait, that guy played with all those maladies, those injuries? Like, yeah, that's how tough the NHL guys are. But that's the difference. Load management is a major problem in the league. The idea that you get to the arena and the doctors, and I know that a lot of this heat goes to the players. You think players pull up and they're just like, yeah, no, I'm peacing out. I'm just not going to play. You understand that in the inner workings of the National Basketball Association, there are analytics people, there are doctors that'd be like, based on this schedule and how many games you play, you probably should sit out this game. And what's the NBA player going to say? No, I'm good. No, I'll play. But it's a agreement with the coaches, along with the doctors, along with analytics people on how many games can you really play. There's only a few players in the NBA that play every game. But it's not just the players just, sitting up saying, I don't want to play. Sometimes they're told, more times than not, they're told, yeah, 4 games in 5 nights or 3 games in 5 nights. Just, yeah, you got a long road trip. This game's not as important as this game. So they play the numbers game in some NBA cities, as I've been told. So, obviously that's a major issue. Load management, just not great. And the other thing is about the gatekeepers. I'm really strong on the gatekeepers. I want to talk to you about this for a second. So when it comes to Chris Collinsworth or Tom Brady or Troy Aikman or Tony Romo or Randy Moss, Terry Bradshaw, Chris Sims, Bill Cowher, what I just named for you is a lot of analysts around the National Football League. You know what those guys have in common? I can name a whole bunch more, but I just want to get to the main number one booths and some of the analysts around those booths. You know the difference is between Tom Brady and Collinsworth and Aikman and Romo, some of these other guys. You know what they do? They celebrate the National Football League. They talk about what's good about the NFL, why you should be excited about a matchup, why you should be excited about a player. In the NFL, on a regular basis, it's a celebration of the sport. They're the gatekeepers, along with Tony Dungy and the McCourties and Chris Sims and Randy Moss, all these guys. They are gatekeepers of the game. They are on our TVs or on our devices every Sunday telling you about how exciting this matchup is, or look for this player, or fantasy football, or gambling, or whatever it is. But what they do is that they tell you about what's good about the NFL. And guess what? We eat it up. We're like, yeah, this is going to be a great game. It could be a couple of teams that's not good in the NFL, but you know what? There's money-making opportunities. There's fantasy. Yep, I'm going to watch that game because in that 3:25 window or that noon window, it might be bad for the one-loss record standpoint, but the analyst told me this is a good game. And so we watch. Even if we're bored, we watch because it's the National Football League. In the NBA, as entertaining as Charles Barkley, Kenny Smith, and Shaq are, they have not done a service that's well for the NBA. They've done a disservice to the NBA. Very entertaining. And probably the best show for pre and post, probably in the history of the NBA, when you think about it, because those are three friends, Charles, Shaq, and Kenny Smith, along with Ernie Johnson. They do a great job of being able to entertain us. But at the same time, whether it's Shaq or whether it's Charles Barkley, maybe not Kenny Smith as much, but Barkley and Shaq will tell you how much the NBA sucks and how the 80s and 90s were better. And Charles Barkley will tell you that NHL is better than the NBA. And they always put a foot on the neck of the NBA. Those gatekeepers are not right for the NBA. They're entertaining, but if you want to be able to promote the sport, that's not it. Because Charles Barkley and Shaq and Kenny will tell you how great the basketball was 30 years ago versus now. The NBA needs to do a better job. Their gatekeepers need to be able to accentuate why SGA is a terrific player, why Giannis Antetokounmpo is a great player, why you have teams that are to look for, like Detroit's a great story in the Eastern Conference, why Boston, who I thought were going to go backwards, are actually right there in the mix to be able to compete in the playoffs, why Cleveland's good, why the Knicks are interesting, what's happening with in the Western Conference with Wemby and the San Antonio Spurs. And there's a lot of great stories in the NBA, but if no one's there to tell it, then the prevailing thought is, well, the NBA, give it or take it, take it or leave it. And so when I think about what's happening on Amazon, I think the Amazon crew's done a really good job in that little lounge area. I don't know if you've seen this. I think they've done a really good job on Amazon talking about the stars of the game and accentuating the positives of the game. I think that Big Perk, along with Mike Malone on ESPN, has done a really good job of talking about what's happening now in today's NBA. Along with Brian Windhurst, they do a really good job of talking about today's NBA. It's not boring to me. It's very interesting because I can learn. When I turn on the TV, I can learn something about today's stars. But when you just paint a broad brush and just say the whole league sucks, like Charles Barkley does, that does nothing for the league. It does nothing for Adam Silver. And I know Silver looks at this and says, boy, we love the entertainment of the new ESPN, the former TNT booth, but boy, they just shit on the product all the time. And when the best of the best at the top of the profession says it's bad, then guess what? The average fan will say, well, if Barkley says it sucks, if Shaq says it sucks, then it must suck. That's a major problem for the NBA. So when I take a look at that little checklist that I put together, I mean, the style of play is an issue. Too many threes. The tanking is it's beyond pale. You have to find a way to be able to fix this. The floor and the ceiling for the NBA as far as the one loss total. There's always going to be teams that's going to try to take a chance. They try to bottom out thinking that they're going to be able to be on top at some point. But again, what does this do for the fans in New Orleans and Sacramento and Salt Lake and what's happening in Brooklyn and the district and Indianapolis? What does it do for those fans? Same thing with the load management issue. And again, there are some players that will take off because they're told or because they want to, because it's a long, it's a very long season. But at the same time, these regular seasons in Major League Baseball, NHL, they don't matter. But again, at least those players play. And of course, the gatekeepers are a major problem. There's good things about the NBA I want to talk about as well, because NBA business indeed is booming. Look at that. Revenue is at record levels. There's no doubt. And it doesn't matter if you as a fan are not going to games, they are making a ton of money in the NBA. Revenue is at record levels. The new media deals I just talked about are massive to be able to be on Amazon, to be able to be on other channels like NBC and Peacock. They're doing wonders for the league to be on a different platform because of the nostalgia. This whole thing, by the way, with the NBA and NBC, again, depending on the matchup, I mean, they're doing full doubleheaders on Tuesday, wiping out the local news across the country because the NBA is on. And it's kind of like the new norm now, where the NBA is just like, hey, if your local news, we got a doubleheader to put on like they used to have on TNT back in the day. So from that standpoint, they have these new media deals are pretty big. The global growth is growing. One thing about basketball, more so than the NFL. The NFL's trying, by the way, by having more and more of these international games, trying to grow the product. Basketball's got them beat in a huge way. It's not even close. The global game of basketball as a whole and NBA versus the NFL, that's where it lags behind, but they're trying to catch up by having more international games because there's dollars in that. But the global growth of the game is continues to be strong. And of course, labor peace is largely held. And the reason why is because, well, it's about as close to 50-50 as possible between the owners and the players. The agreement of these two entities, the players and the owners. I mean, the NFL is different, soccer is different, Major League Baseball is different, but the NBA, it's like lock and key, which is crazy, but it is true. This almost as 50-50 as anything else. But going back to my question, is NBA becoming a better product, or is this a better business? And let me answer that question for you. Right now, it is about a better business. As someone who loves the NBA and loves basketball in general, I understand what is going on in this league, and Adam Silver is drowning. He's drowning as a commissioner. There's things that has happened here in this league that we just addressed that I don't know if it can be fixed. I don't know if it can be. When you tank as much as some of these teams do, and these teams always lose, as you well know, they'll try to lose, try to get a high draft pick. But in those markets, just think about it. You go to your local gym arena and you see the teams lose on purpose. And then you don't know if the next year it's going to get better. I mean, some of those good teams that bottom out, like the San Antonio Spurs, are a perfect example. They bottomed out to be able to get right back up there with Wembanyama. It's crazy. But, I mean, this is a team here that could actually get to the finals this year if they're blessed with good health. But there's some issues under Adam Silver that need to be addressed. And again, as someone who enjoys the league, I understand the issues. It doesn't mean that the NBA is unwatchable. If it is for you, all good. But one thing that is the truth that I will tell you about is that if a team sucks in your market, of course you think the NBA sucks. That's a truth that no one will ever tell you, right? The Chicago Bulls fan that will say the Bulls, they're under the cut line. They're 24 and 30 and probably won't make the playoffs because they made all their deals for second round draft picks. And so Charlotte is maybe a better basketball team. We'll see. But Charlotte might replace the Bulls in the play in. If you're in those markets like Memphis or like the Clippers in Los Angeles, or if you're Utah or New Orleans or Sacramento, if you are in those cities, yeah, the NBA sucks. If you're a middling market that can't get over the hump and you say, boy, I just want to be in the top 5, top 6, I want to be where the Knicks are, and I want to be where the Rockets are, I want to be where the Nuggets are, I want to be where the Lakers or Minnesota. Like, if you're one of those teams that just can't get over the hump, yeah, of course you think the league sucks. That's real talk, actually. That's real talk. When you talk down to the league, now there's issues that we just addressed. But if your team stinks, your team used to be a champion, or used to be a playoff contender, and it just is spinning its wheels, of course you think the league sucks because your team sucks. That's real. So you say, well, Hood, what are the answers for all of this? I don't know the answers to it. I just know that your gatekeepers could be better to be able to really celebrate the league, past, present, and future. There's a way to do that. When it comes to load management, there's a way to be able to find the crap out of teams or make sure that this gets better. They try to put something in place, and I don't think it's working very much. And style of play is the biggest thing. You're not taking the 3-point stripe away. So what are you going to do for teams that just want to shoot the three just so they can cherry pick on defense? They want to shoot the three so they can go and go backwards so they're in place defensively. That's not good. That's not good. In my generation, everybody wanted to dunk the basketball like Dr. J and like Michael Jordan. Like, it wasn't about trying to shoot the basketball. Everyone wanted to rise up and dunk the basketball when I was a kid. And now I can drive through neighborhoods that's playing basketball and people are shooting it from the moon. These kids shooting it from the moon because everyone wants to be Steph Curry. So how do you get that back? If everyone's shooting a three, it isn't a bad three. That's the thing that's bad. So when you shoot a bad three and then you see 45 of them or 50 of them in games, how do you put the genie back in the bottle? Leave your comments below. I just want to get your thoughts because here we are with All-Star Weekend. And oh, by the way, as I close, as we're brought to you by our fine folks over at Southwest Airlines, let me tell you something. Southwest Airlines has always been great to us, and so please be great to them. The link is in the bio. One thing about the All-Star Weekend that I've said for many, many years on SiriusXM, on ESPN Radio, on ESPN Chicago, I said this a long time. The NBA for a while, for about, I'd say 10 plus years, has gotten All-Star Weekend wrong. What's the one thing we talked about? We talked about 45 threes on average for some teams in the NBA. That's the main event. That should be the last thing that you see on All-Star Saturday night, but they go with the tradition, and the tradition sucks. No one's dunking the basketball. No one's dunking the basketball and doing something that's really unique as far as the All-Star game is concerned, All-Star Weekend. You talk about unwatchable. I like the skills competition because I think that's cool when you get guards or bigs out there trying to go through like the whole assembly line of things they have to do to win that skills competition. I think that's cool. I think that's different. But the main event should be a 3-point competition or 4-point competition, because the thing that sinks the All-Star Weekend every time is these bad dunks that are missed. It's the worst. It's the worst. It's just a bunch of guys that are at the end of benches. They're not stars. It's like 4 to 6 guys that are not necessarily stars. They get out there and they miss dunks, and they just gum up the works, and it just becomes unwatchable and embarrassing when they miss dunks. It's the worst. The 3-point competition should be last. You want to do the slam dunk, do that first. Get that out of the way. And then skills competition second. Something like that. But it should be 3 and 4-point shots for WNBA and also NBA. I'd like to see that. And then for this All-Star game, it's like the USA against the world or something like that. I think that's what it is. Like, dude, there's no defense played in that. There's no real regard for the game of basketball in those all-star games, so I don't watch. I don't have to watch. Adam Silver, the commissioner, there's some things that David Stern would have been able to take care of that you're not. So as much as I enjoy basketball and the stars of basketball and college and pro, there's things to work on. That is for sure. By the way, have I told you lately about the people over at Alexander James Whiskey? Oh, yes. It's the official whiskey of Under the Hood with Jonathan Hood. I just happen to have a bottle right here. It's always handy. This is the one I don't drink out of. The one downstairs at the bar, that's the one I drink out of. But this one here, oh, yes. This happens to be a special barrel proof right here for Alexander James Whiskey. Go to alexanderjameswhiskey.com and check it out. The link is in the bio because this is the official whiskey of Under the Hood with Jonathan Hood. So make sure that you check it out. Jesse does a great job of going from place to place promoting Alexander James Whiskey. So make sure that you do that. They support us. We support them on Under the Hood with Jonathan Hood. Hey, we're going to have some guests coming up at the end of the week. I hope that you get a chance to like, share, subscribe, and comment to all our videos. But again, this is for those that you used to love the NBA, those that love the NBA and care about the future of basketball. How could I hate basketball? How can I hate the NBA when Michael Jordan played in it? Michael Jordan didn't play? Cut it off. No. He got me into basketball. The Bulls got me into basketball. So now I'm not going to watch. I watch. There's always money-making opportunities. There's always stars right around the corner. Wembanyama came out of like a spaceship. He's must-see television. I can't believe that he's 7'6", 7'7", and playing basketball. There's always an attraction in the NBA. I will not let load management or tanking or style of play or gatekeeping or anything else deter me from my enjoyment of a game that I really enjoy, basketball. Thanks for checking out Under the Hood with Jonathan Hood. So long, everybody. From Chicago.